Get ready, my soul. I'm diving in. Get ready, my soul. I'm diving in to the deepest kind of love, to the sweetest kind of life. Get ready, my soul. Everything I've ever done, everything I've ever seen, everything I've lost or won, everything I've ever dreamed has brought me here to the present moment, here to a new beginning here, and I'm seeing life so clearly now. Get ready, my soul. I'm diving in. Get ready, my soul. I'm diving in to the deepest kind of love, to the sweetest kind of life. Get ready, my soul. Here I go, deeper, deeper, deeper than I've ever been before. Here I go, closer, closer, closer to my sacred source. Here I get ready, my soul.
I am not Reverend Nina Clark. My name is Dr. Richard Loren Held. I'm the spiritual director at Unity in Lynnwood. It is an honor, a privilege, and a pleasure to welcome you. Reverend Nina is enjoying a much-deserved break following the women's retreat facilitated by Ricky Byers and crew. It's my privilege to offer opening words of prayer. We're just returning from vacation, and over vacation I was reading Thoreau, who said this, and I paraphrase. He said that God culminates in the present moment. Isn't that a beautiful idea? God culminates in the present moment. He went on to say that no passing of the ages will make God any more divine than God is now. So any consciousness that is waiting for God to become more, for God to give more, is really best foregone for a consciousness that seeks to become a better vessel for all that God is. So I like to say that we're always praying. And so what we call prayer then becomes a moment of intentionality, a moment of elevation, a moment of greater availability for the givingness that is God. So let's do that today. Let us seek to become more available to all that we hold God to be. Take a deep breath with me. Close the outer eyes, yet again, not because we would turn from the truth, but because we would know a higher truth. Close the outer eyes that would speak to us of separation and limitation, partiality, chaotic drama. That we might open the inner spiritual eyes of us that know better and see higher. We open the spiritual eyes of us, capable of knowing the underlying reality of life beyond any appearance. We open the spiritual eyes of us that we might know the underlying reality of wisdom, ample to any sense of confusion, incompletion. We open the spiritual eyes of us that we might come into a heightened recognition of a divine sufficiency. There is no earthly problem that doesn't have a divine answer, you see. Yet again, we close the earthly eyes of us that we might come into a heightened awareness, a heightened recognition, a heightened remembering of a harmony, the same harmony that holds the planets in harmonious balance. Because God culminates in the present moment, we know that that life is the life of us. We know that that wisdom is the wisdom of us. We know that that sufficiency is the sufficiency of us. We know that that harmony is the harmony of us. The life of God is active within me now. Whew, what an affirmation. The wisdom of God is active within me now. The sufficiency of God is active within me now. The harmony of God is active within me now. God is. I am. God is. I am. God is. I am. God is. So it is.
He sits on a sidewalk and holds up a sign. Please help me, I'm hungry, but we just walk by. And it's colder than ever, the cold of the heart that builds up the stone walls that keep us apart. And what are we here for, if not for love? If not for each other, how can we be enough to get through the darkness and still rise above? What are we here for, if not for love? I don't know the reason we can't get along. Seems like everyone's fighting about who's right and who's wrong. Maybe you wear a gold cross and I wear a star, just to keep us from seeing how connected we are. And what are we here for, if not for love? If not for each other, how can we be enough to get through the darkness and still rise above? What are we here for, if not for love? And must we wait until this world all goes to hell to love our neighbor as ourselves? What are we here for, if not for love? If not for each other, how can we be enough? What are we here for, if not for love?
If you have children, youth and family ministries gatherings are launching at this very moment as well. You may contact that program's director. Her name is Stacy Bailey for credentials. We've created vehicles of support for you. Please stay current with us. Visit unityinlynnwood.org. Plug in with Unity in Lynnwood through the social media avenues of your choice. Download the Unity in Lynnwood app. It is free in both Android and Apple versions. You are welcome to click the Breeze email link in your social media chat window. This will enable you to receive text notifications and reminders. Can anyone use reminders from time to time? Is that just me? And of course, you're welcome to click the link in your social media chat window if you would like to stay in touch through a couple email messages each month. It's also a great way simply to confirm that your information with us is up to date. And always, if our staff, if I, if Matthew, if Nina can assist you in any way with any of the above, click or call. We would love to support you and to simply be connected with you. Practical spirituality welcoming community. It's a short mission statement. It's short in word, and yet I hold it to remain broad in implication. Practical spirituality and welcoming community. It means a great deal more to me than 4 short words might imply. I hope the same is true for you. Every week I like to support this with one of the 6 bullet points, which we developed in conversation with your board of trustees beginning in late 2014. Today I offer the first of 6. It reads as follows. We offer a metaphysical teaching which encourages regular spiritual practice, including prayer, meditation, affirmation, denial, service, and study. If you don't have a regular spiritual practice, we're here to help you find one. Click or call. If you are an active, eligible member who would like to be considered for service on our Board of Trustees beginning in January 2021, please write me directly, Dr. Richard at unityinlynnwood.org. I will send you the application and the job description. And finally, if you would like to experience what we call a divine wholeness session with a prayer chaplain immediately following this service, simply click on the link provided in your social media chat window near the end of the service. It is a time of allowing another person in silence to hold high ideas of truth about you. It lasts a few minutes. It's really quite beautiful. Palpably powerful. If you'd prefer to have telephone prayer, simply write prayer@unityinlynnwood.org now and wait for an anonymous phone call immediately following this service. Reverend Patric Creelman, my friend, my brother, what a light. He's been a student of New Thought and Ancient Wisdom for more than 20 years. Ordained as an interfaith minister and interspiritual counselor at the One Spirit Interfaith Seminary, he became a religious science practitioner while living in New York City. Prior to that, he toured the world as a performer in a wide variety of film, television, and theatrical productions. Reverend Patric considers himself a perpetual student. I love this. A perpetual student of and participant in all things, ideas, and philosophies that are creative and life-affirming. Even now, I imagine you, as I invite you to open your hearts, to open your minds in the beauty that is a Unity in Lynnwood welcome to our friend, Reverend Patric Creelman.
Thank you for that nice introduction. I always feel a little awkward with biographies and things like that. We have those details, but they're not really, they're not really representative of who we are. They're the clothes we put on, they're the items that describe some of our qualities of our life. So thank you for having me here today. I'm grateful to be in community with you. Wherever this is reaching you, awesome to see you. What are we here for if not for love? What are we here for if not for each other? I'm often astounded at how perfect things come together. We didn't talk about music. We didn't talk about the message that I was going to give today. But then the divine idea shows up and brings things together and aligns things together. What are we here for if not for love? And my heart is heavy today, as I'm sure it is for many people. I'm thinking today of Justice Ginsburg. I'm thinking today of Breonna Taylor and George Floyd and social justice. I'm thinking today of civil rights leaders John Lewis and C.T. Vivian and the Black Lives Matters movement and social faith-filled. What does it mean to be here for each other? What does it mean to be here for love? I'm moved this morning. I'm thinking also, why are there so many videos on Instagram about people making soda bread? What is that about? I don't understand. I'm thinking about the fake news and the truth-telling and the lies and the facts and the fiction and the stories that we tell ourselves. I'm thinking about how hard it is to keep perspective sometimes. How hard it is sometimes for me to protect my inner sanctuary, and how important it is to be in community and to connect with like-minded people, with like-souled people, like-spirited people. I'm thinking about how much a mess this year, 2020, is. It's a hot mess. We can't pretend it's not. It is. And we have life within it. And how are we going to make it through these next couple of months, through the election, and then into the next year? How do we transcend the realities of the world, of the things that are going on in the world, with compassion, with grace, with right-mindedness, and with grace and safety for us all? I'm thinking about a loved one who died earlier this year and a brother who died in the spring. And I'm thinking of a brother who went into the hospital on Friday with heart issues in the midst of COVID concerns. He's in the risk group. I'm thinking, and I'm worried, and I'm frustrated. I'm thinking of two friends who are battling cancer right now. These aren't easy times for any of us. And I feel overwhelmed, and I'm sure some of you feel overwhelmed as well. And if you feel frustrated, if you feel stuck, if you feel hopeless at times, that's real. If you get one thing from this moment together today, this time together today, remember that if we're not here for each other, then what are we here for? If we're not here for love, then what are we here for? And another thing, if you get this, it's okay to feel frustrated. It's okay to be anxious. It's okay to not know what to do. My encouragement to you is to not judge yourself for having those very real emotions in this moment, in these times. I want you to know that it's okay to feel exactly how you're feeling at any given moment. We're human, and all that means is that you're awake, you're conscious of what's going on in the world, and remember that you have a spiritual community. Remember you have the power of prayer. Remember you've had experiences probably in this room, and if not in the nature, in the mountains, or with someone else, or in another situation of aligning with truth with a capital T, aligning with God, aligning with love, aligning with the life force that brought you into being. Remember that as well. As we recognize the facts, we recognize the situations of the world and of our life, the world of 10,000 effects, the world of effects, and more importantly, taking the breath into your body, taking the pause, and remembering the oneness with God, remembering that you have a breath to take. Give yourself the space to feel what you feel, and give yourself, to allow yourself to be grounded. My own personal words. So I need to be inspired. And one of the books I pulled up was from the author Pema Chodron, a Buddhist monk, one of my favorites. We have a choice. How do we react with it? The other quote, for some reason, that came into my mind for this was from the Bible. And if Philippians chapter 4. Do not be anxious about everything, but in every situation, by prayer and thanksgiving, present your requests to God. Whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent and praiseworthy, think about such things. Those words were a comfort to me, both of those paragraphs. It doesn't mean that we ignore what's real in front of us. It doesn't mean that we put on some rosy-eyed glasses and pretend things aren't what they are. It doesn't mean that we pretend to not feel what we feel, but it means we have an opportunity to lift our eyes, lift our spirits, lift our consciousness, elevate our consciousness to the possibility of transcendence, to the possibility of improvement, to possibility, period. I'm reminded of a quote from one of my Southern Baptist choir directors. He used to say, don't go to God and tell it how big your mountain is. Go to the mountain and tell it how big your God is. Go to the mountain and tell it how big your faith is. Go to the mountain, the reality of the world, this challenge, whatever the big emotion is that you're feeling, and tell it clearly how big your faith is, how big your love is, how big the sense of your oneness with each other is, how big your desire to be of service is. Tell that to the mountain and see the mountain bend, crumble, or at least soften, and see yourself soften in the face of it. What's real in the world is happening, but we have a choice how to direct our thoughts. The other book that I've been reading, and it comes back to me over and over and over and over and over again. And Dr. Richard mentioned Howard Thurman, but this book is The Practice of the Presence of God. And it speaks about Brother Lawrence, a 17th century lay Carmelite brother. And he says this. I want to bring this up unexpectedly today. And it was observed that in the greatest hurry of business in the kitchen, he still preserved his recollections and heavenly mindedness. He was never hasty nor loitering, but did each thing in its season and with an uninterrupted composure and tranquility of spirit. The time of business, Brother Lawrence said, does not differ to me from the time of prayer. And in the noise and the clatter of my kitchen, with several persons all at the same time calling for different things, I possess, Brother Lawrence says, I possess God in as great a tranquility as if I were upon my knees in blessed sacrament. In the day-to-day moments of our lives, our connection to humanity, our connection to God is very real. We come to spiritual communities like this, we come to spiritual practice daily to exercise a muscle, to learn tools, so that when we go out in the world, all we have to do is take a pause, take a breath into our body, and know that we're one with God. And hopefully that is the filter with which we take the next action. Now, Brother Lawrence wasn't a scholar. He was a simple man. He didn't do great things in his life. He didn't change the world. He wasn't a priest. He wasn't even a brother. He was a lay brother. He was in 17th century France, and he was a former soldier in the 30 Years' War, and he was wounded, and then he became a footman. So he was a very humble man. And he talks about in this book, speaking of his profound effect on the world, this book wasn't written by him. This book was written as people's impressions of his life. His contributions to the world and to their lives is what they shared in this book. He was a soldier. And this one day, this wintry day, he was walking along the French countryside and he came upon a tree in the distance that had no leaves. It was browny gray. It was that kind of tree in the middle of the winter, appearing to be barren, appearing to be lifeless. And he paused, and he stopped, and he put his things down, and he caught his breath, and he paused in front of this tree. He paused for a long time and was transfixed by it. And he says in this book, the tree was stripped of its leaves, but within a very short time, he knew that the leaves would be renewed and that the flowers would come and then the fruit would appear. He looked at the tree that looked lifeless and gray, and he saw God. He looked at the tree that looked like it had no life, and he saw life. This brown tree was the thing that connected him to his sense of spirit, to his sense of love, to his sense of God. It was a touchstone for his soul and his remembering. And that experience changed his thinking about himself. That experience changed his thinking about spirit, about God, and about his connection to God, and about his future. In that moment, and he knew within that tree lay the promise of his future. And he says in that moment that he received, and remember, the middle of winter, the French countryside, a wounded soldier with not much to his name. You can imagine what that is as an 18-year-old at that time. He looked at the tree, communed with the tree, took a pause in his life, laid down his burdens. And he said in that moment, he saw the high view of the providence and power of God. And from that moment on, he devoted his life to service and to God. Now, he didn't have the big burning bush that is told in other stories. He didn't have the big dramatic pronouncement. There were no angels that came down. There was a simple willingness and openness to soften and be one with the essence, with the creative source of that tree. And we're not all going to become monks, obviously, or do the big things in the world, and we're not all going to fix everything, and we're not all lawyers, and we're not going to be legislators to fix what's going on in the world. Most of us are not going to the protests. We're not in the front lines of some of the change that needs to happen in the world. We're not going to make the big sweeping gestures, but we can all do something. We can all have the power of our choice to make a difference in the world and to make the difference in the next person that we meet. One of the greatest lessons I learned from my parents as a young boy, that got repeated over and over again until I actually learned it, was that when I got stuck by my own mind, thinking I don't want to do anything, this is stupid, whatever we do as a young person, and my parents would call that a pity party, my dad would say, Patrick, or at that time he called me Pat. Actually, if it was earlier, he called me Patty as well, but that's a whole other story. He would say, go ask your mother if there's something you can do for her. And if it was my mother talking to me, she would go, ask your father if there's something you can do for him. Ask your sister if you can go help her with that chore. Ask Mrs. Gunther down the street if you can go mow her lawn. They knew, and they advised me, and it became a spiritual practice and a life practice and a very useful tool in my back pocket. That when I get stuck in my brain, and I get stuck in the overwhelm sometimes, get up and do something for someone else. It's that simple. You don't even really have to want to do it, but just put yourself in motion. Put yourself in the unstuckness that it is when you take a next step. Put yourself in the idea of being of service to the other. And that always changed my mood. It always lifted me out of myself, of the stuck thought, of the idea Mother Teresa says, not all of us can do great things, but all of us can do small things with great love. But first, I think we must honor what we're feeling in the moment. Don't ignore it. Just honor it. Recognize it. Recognize the thoughts that run through our minds. And then we return to spiritual practice. We return to communities like this. We return to God. We return to love, as the Course in Miracles talks about. We return to service. We return to the greater community. We return to purpose and what that means for us as individuals. That's a very intimate question that we all have to answer to ourselves, but then we make a choice. What is our choice? Do we want to get stuck and overwhelmed by the mountain? Or do we want to look at the mountain and know our faith and know our place as one with God, know our ability to transcend the situation? Our work as people of faith and ultimately, I think, is ultimately to hold space for hope, to hold space for possibility, for others, for ourselves, for the world, to hold space for the providence and the power of God. Now, our grief and anxiety and frustration is part of our humanity. It's part of our humanness. Our grief, like spirit, our frustration, like spirit, and like love, sees the future. It sees the long game. It knows that we stand in line with many, many, many who come before us, and all who were a part of our lineage and ancestors of faith-filled people, all of service-minded people, all who came and made a choice to do something for good in the world, to do good. They made a choice. They recognized the possibility. They extended their hands in service. And they got out of their own lives and they moved forward. They moved forward so the next person could move forward and the next person could move forward, and so that we are in this place where we are moving forward. And so now it's our turn. It's our turn to do something for the next person. It's our turn in our own personal lives, in the lives of our community, and the lives beyond that as well. So grieve if we must, be frustrated if we need to be, scream if we need to, and then take a breath. Return to silence. Return to nature. Return to prayer. And then take an action in the direction of goodness. Take an action in the direction of justice. Take an action in the direction of love. We have a choice to make, and it literally is the choice for life. And the choice for life could be inspired by the mountain, or it could be inspired by faith. It could be inspired by the external world, or can be inspired by our sense of spirit, a sense of God, and our sense of love. But we have the choice of a lifetime to make, literally a choice of a lifetime and for a lifetime. I'll end this portion of my talk with a final quote from Brother Lawrence. He knew that all things are possible to the person who believes, that all things are less difficult to the person who hopes, and they are made more easy to the person who loves, and still more easy to the person who perseveres in the practice of these three virtues. Now, he may be a simple man, but his life of simple service and devotion is being spoken about in the 21st century. That's not so simple. That is a profound gift to the world. And I guarantee you, he did not know that he was giving that gift. He was just showing up in service. He was just showing up to do good work. He was just showing up and taking the next step for himself as he saw fit in his life. My invitation to you, don't worry about the mountain. Know what is right for you. Go to prayer, go to silence, go to love, and act and choose from there. I'd like to finish that with a poem that was inspired by Philippians. Take a breath into our body. Change gears a little bit. This poem is called Think on These Things. When the relationship has grown too small for the love you carry in your heart, and when the life has become constrained and confining for the expanse that lay within and beyond you, and when the words you use are clipped like the wings on a caged bird, and when the eyes you see are clouded and gray, and the ears you hear with are muted and hollow, and the taste of art has left your lips, when you think you have nothing left to give, and when you think the promise has been left broken and soiled, think on these things. Think beyond what you know. Think beyond the words you comprehend. Think beyond thought itself. Think the kinds of thought prayers that go unworded. Think the kinds of thought prayers that need no answer. The kinds of thought prayers that need only to be lived and ingested and surrendered and sung through and spoken aloud. Think on these things. Think the truth about yourself. Think of the possibilities of life. Think of the limitless life that lies in the heart and the mind of God. Think a thought of prayer and a thought of praise for life itself, for breath itself, for creativity itself. Think a thought of gratitude for very ability to have a thought. Think on that. And then think again. Allow the thought of love to think you. Allow the thought of God to think itself through you, as you. Let it have its way with you. Let it have its thunderous, delicious, glorious way with your very being in the world. Let love think you. And then think again. Let God think you, and then think again. Think on these things. Think the smile into being. Think the life into reality. Think the opulence of your essence into the real world. Think aloud the things you've kept to yourself. There is no better time than this time, so take your time. There is no voice better than your voice, so lift your voice. There is no word better than your word, so speak and write and sculpt your word into the world. Thank your word. Thank your voice. Thank your life. Think on these things when you think of yourself. Think of these things when you think of God. Think of these things when you think in quiet, when you think aloud, when you think in song, when you think of love, when you think, period. Think on these things. Think of yourself in the same light as light itself. Think of yourself as love would think you. And then think again. Namaste. Thank you for having me today.
I want to have lunch with you, Reverend Patric Creelman. Thank you, brother. Thank you. What a gift. I think there's a spectrum to prayer, and I think on the, what I would call the magical end of prayer, it's about changing stuff and things out there, and that's perfectly legitimate. On the, what I would call the spiritual end of prayer, however, it's always about changing stuff and things in here. It's always about becoming the fullest self, and then taking that fullest self into the stuff and things of this world. I love his words. I love his encouragement. I love his reminder. Again, I'm not Reverend Nina Clark. Isn't she the most eloquent? She normally introduces the opportunity to give. Today I will do that. This is an opportunity for spiritual practice. Yes. Giving is one of the vehicles for Unity in Lynnwood's financial sustenance. That's true. behind it, it is a time of spiritual practice. There is a law, and it's a law of circulation. I have a news for you today. Take a deep breath. All those stuff and all the things, all the trinkets of earthly life that you absolutely can't live without, well, you will. You won't take them with you. You live in a universe that circulates. Its nature is circulation. It's not ownership. And so in affording you the opportunity to give, we afford you the opportunity to align with a law of the universe. How about that? So if you choose to make a gift to Unity in Lynnwood this morning, hold that gift in your mind's eye. Or if it's a physical gift, hold it in your hands. And if it's an intention, allow it to rest in your heart. Let us dedicate these gifts to a universe that knows what to do with them and knows how to respond to the generosity that allows them.
All that I am, I offer at the altar of love. All that I am, I offer at the altar of love. In sweet surrender, in sweet surrender.
We ask that you register for events and activities. Rabbi Ted Falcon, Spiritual Saturdays, upcoming on the 17th of October, 11 o'clock a.m. That's streamed live through the Unity in Lynnwood Facebook page and YouTube channels. If you are, again, an active eligible member, please mark your calendars for the annual business meeting that occurs on Sunday, October 18th, 12:30 or so. This will be held virtually. Please stand by for reservation details. During this annual business meeting, we will review and vote on some bylaw language changes, and we will elect 2 new trustees for service beginning in January 2021. We respectfully request and gratefully receive your presence. It's not too late to register for the gala. While the in-house event is at capacity, we are still accepting virtual guests. You will sit at a real table. You will visit with real people. You will enjoy the full program of the evening. You will have dinner delivered to your home so that you might eat with other people. Isn't that a beautiful thing? Dinner will be delivered to your home at the appointed hour. The keynote address for the evening will be delivered by Unity World Headquarters CEO Jim Blake. What a light he is. He will speak to you of our Fund a Need initiative. We call it Soul Greens. It draws its inspiration from the very roots of the Unity movement. Unity once housed the arguably largest vegetarian restaurant in the world. Seated some 200 people at a time, served 10,000 meals a week. We have a culinary R&D team of sorts, if you will, revisiting the earliest recipes, dating as early as 1906, recreating them, updating them, adapting them, that we might begin to offer public food service in our amazing Friendship Hall in upcoming months. And I'm affirming months, not years. Months. While your Board of Trustees has extended the cancellation of on-site events through September, we are tentatively planning to allow 12 guests into the Sunday services in October. This opportunity will be offered by reservation only and facilitated by reserved seating. You must sit where we put you. Pre-screening questions, no-touch temperature checks, distanced parking, masking, distancing, and sanitizing are among the protocols which will be communicated in advance and expected of all. In closing, we ask your understanding of this offering as something of a beta test, with decisions about subsequent months to be issued during October based upon circumstances as they become known. Your opportunity to reserve a seat will come available later this week. Stay tuned. I love being with you. Thanks for being with us today. Let's close with more prayer work. You see, the idea isn't to remember and then to forget. The idea is to remember and then to carry it forth. I'm going to ask you some important questions in October and provide you with some amazing opportunities to practice this. As we navigate October, we will be considering the question, who will we be with each other in the months of October and November? Who will we be with each other? You know, we like to think that we are victims of separatist thinking out there. But I wonder if separatist thinking out there would exist if we were able to act as enlightened community. I believe Jesus called it the kingdom of heaven on earth. I think King called it his beloved community. If we were able to be that right where we are, and I think we can do it. So taking another deep breath, let us affirm the life of God is the life that sources me, and it's enough. The wisdom of God is the wisdom that sources me, and it's enough. That sufficiency of God is the sufficiency that sources me, and it is enough. And always that harmony. That harmony of God is the harmony of me, and it's enough. Carry those thoughts forth. Allow them to have their way with you. And we close as we always do, with sung words of farewell, with sung words of blessing.
May the long time sun shine upon you.